All right, so we made that first video. That was E-62. Now we are going to do E-63. I feel like this computer is doing some really weird stuff right now. It's like spazzing out in the corner, but I'm not sure what's really happening. So let's go ahead and look at 63. It says, why is your nose in the middle of your face? Well, let's do some math and find out why. The directions say write each answer, then mark it in the answer column. For each set of exercises, there is one extra answer. Write the letter of this answer in the corresponding box at the bottom of the page. So I'm going to do a good handful of these problems with you guys, and I will show you what those directions mean in case they sounded kind of confusing, because I thought they sounded confusing. So I am going to do number 3. Number 3, the first problem is -5 times -9. I do expect that you can do these without calculators. It shouldn't be that hard. This should be math you can do in your head. Some of them I understand we can't, and that's the ones that I'm going to do with you, but the rest of them you should be able to do in your head. So -5 times -9 is positive 45. So then we would cross this one out. It says we're not going to use that letter. Now we have 20 times -4. So 20 times -4, you could think of, for now, just kind of forget about the negative, but you have 20 cents. So you have 4 groups of 20 cents. So you'd have 80 cents. But one of them's negative, so we have a -80. So we'd cross the -80 off. That V is gone. Thank goodness. What words are spelt with V's? And then the last part here is -16 times 2. This is something that I should anticipate you having memorized. 16 times 2 is 32. One of them is negative, so we have -32. So we cross out that M. So now in the corresponding box for number 3, down below, so where there's a number 3, you put that letter that's next to that remaining answer. So we'd put an S. Okay, now I'm going to show you number 4. So we have 6 times -6, and that would equal -36. So cross out that L. We have 10 times -18. You know that you can just forget about the 0 for a minute, multiply the 1 and the 18. So -1 times -18 is positive 18. And then we just tack that 0 back at the end. So it equals positive 180, so we can cross the Y off. -12 times -3. So 12 times 3 is 36. Because these are both negatives, they cancel out, and we're left with that positive. So cross the W off, and that means where number 4 is, we can put an I. So it is the first box. Number 5, we have -1 times 24. Any number times 1 is just itself. Because we have a negative number, because one of our numbers is negative, we have a negative answer. Cross off the H. So now we have 2 times 24. So when you're dealing with multiplying by 24, think of the amount of hours in a day. How many hours are in 2 days? 48. So one of these numbers was negative. We should have an answer of -48. So cross the P out. And then we have 3 times 24. So another way you could do this is add 24 to 48. Or you could, what else could we do? Think of 3 days. I don't know why you would know how many hours are in 3 days, but nonetheless, you should get 72. So both of them were negative. Our answer should be then positive 72. So we cross out that O, and we are left with a T. So next to number 5, or underneath number 5, we are going to put a T. For number 6, we have -7 times -11. A negative times a negative is a positive, so we end up with 77. Cross out that J. 15 times -4. So when I multiply 15s, I like to think of groups. I know that 2 groups of 15, so 15 times 2, equals 30. So now I have a nice easy thing to add. If I have 4 groups of 15, so I have 2 groups of this, which means I just multiply this by 2. So 30 times 2 would be 60. One of my numbers is negative, so it would be negative 60. Negative 12 times negative 5 is a negative times a negative is a positive. And then if we do groups, or if you just multiply long way, we have 5 times 2 is 10, so you'd write a 0. Carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus that 1 is 60. So cross out the C. Look for number 6 down here in our answers, and we have an E next to the remaining answer. So we put an E there. Number 7. So now think of money. We have 4 sets of 50 cents. So 4 sets of 50 cents. That would equal 200. They were both positive, so our answer should be positive. So cross out that B. Now we have negative 25 times 8. So think of how many quarters are in a dollar. A quarter is 25 cents, right? How many quarters are in $1? There's 4. Well, we have 8 quarters in our hand. So how much is that? There's 2 $1, so it'd be 200 cents. And we have a negative number, so we'd have negative 200. So cross out the N. And then 90 times 0, it doesn't matter that it's negative because any number times 0 is a big old 0. Cross out that F. So then we're left with an R. So next to number 7, we are going to put in R. The last one that I'm going to do with you is number 14. So number 14, we have negative 2 times negative 15 times negative 5. So these multiplications are just going to, it just takes a little bit longer, right? We end up getting bigger numbers that we're multiplying. So if you were to use a calculator, that's totally fine. On these ones where we're multiplying 3 numbers, that's totally fine. I do want you to try to do it in your head, but I understand if you want to use a calculator. So I'm going to forget about the negatives for right now. I'll add those back in, or I'll factor them back in. So 2 times 15 is going to be 30. And then 30 times 5, so if it helps, 30 times 5, I know that that 0 could just get added back at the end when I multiply it, or after I'm done multiplying. So I could take my 3 and my 5 and say I get 15, and then put that 0 at the end, so 150. And now I need to look at the negatives. So a negative times a negative becomes a positive. And now I have a positive times a negative, which would give me a negative. So my answer for that one is negative 150. So I cross out that Y. Next I have negative 6 times negative 1, which is going to be positive 6, right? Positive 6 times 25. So there's 4 quarters in a dollar, so that's 100. And then there's 2 left over from the 6. So 2 times 25 is 50. So now I have a positive 150. So cross out the A. And then 3 times negative 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9 times 3. So 9 times 3 is 27. One of these is negative, so we end up with negative 27. Cross out the M and write an N next to 14. So there we go. I do want you to finish this. I realize that there's 2 worksheets for today's classwork. They shouldn't take you that long. Honest to goodness, watching the videos probably is going to take longer. I hope you have a swell day, and look for the video on time tomorrow because I'll make it on time. Bye.